We are getting ready to worship, and I pray that our hearts and minds are open to that. Here in the next few moments, we'll have the good fortune of opening God's Word and singing and praising His name and being prayerful consideration of all we do. So we're indeed blessed, brothers and sisters. So thankful to be here with you tonight. I remind our visitors in particular that we have other services other than tonight. Sunday morning, Lord willing, we'll meet back at 6. That's Sunday night. We're going to meet at 9 a.m. for worship, and then Bible classes for all ages immediately following. And then we resume our summer series on Sunday evening, and that'll begin at 6 p.m. as well. Some announcements this evening. Just a reminder, new cards, calls, and fellowship group have been made. Your new group will begin meeting this month, so August of 2023, we start new groups. We will be meeting at Traditions at 5:30 p.m. this upcoming Saturday to sing with the residents. We always look forward to that. Our next Hickory Wood service is this upcoming Sunday, August 6th at 2 p.m. Please see Brandon Beard or John Skorick with any questions. I know if you want to volunteer to help them out, they'd be glad to accept you with them. Our upcoming summer series speaker is Jason Allison from Pilgrim Church of Christ. He will be speaking at our PM service this upcoming Sunday, August 6th. Please keep Teresa Neal, Lyric, and their family in your prayers. They are once again in a custody battle for Lyric. Also, please keep Mrs. Faye Hamlet in your prayers. She is in Stonecrest since this morning. Her family is asking for prayers as her health is declining somewhat here at the moment, but we never know what God's got in store. Through prayer, we've seen people that have sickness, and then pretty soon they're feeling better. We just hope that's the same for Miss Faye. She has been loved by many, many folks here over the years. So let's keep her in our prayers this week. I also have a card to read this evening. To our church family at LaVergne, we appreciate all of the thoughts, prayers, cards, and food we have received during our absence with back and eye surgery. We are truly blessed to be part of this family. And Christian love Ron and Vicki Campbell. We love Ron and Vicki very much as well. So this evening, Brother Clark Inslee will lead us in songs. Sean Clark in Devotional, and Matt Jackson will be leading us in prayer. And Brother Matt, I ask you if you don't mind to keep these individuals in our prayer tonight too. Thank you. Come on up, Brother Clark.
If you'd like to mark in your books, the song after the devotional will be 314. And then the song before will be 889, Do You Know My Jesus? 889.
From For those of you who knew him, it's just almost impossible to sing that song without thinking of Leo Bouchard. And I've done a lot of difficult things in my life, but preaching his funeral was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. What an inspiration he was to me. I am an old soul in an old body. Used to start lessons like that different, a long time ago. I enjoy watching MeTV. If you have MeTV, if you don't have it, you do have it. It's on antenna, if you know how that works, and I've got that at my house. And it plays old shows, and I like old shows. And one of my favorite old shows, which I can't really find anywhere, is a show called The Adventures of Superman. And it had George Reeves in it as the actor. So you've probably seen it at some before. It's super, super popular back in the day. It had like 6 full seasons, and was kind of made almost by accident. I'm just finished reading a book on it, very, very good book on it. Can't tell you the name of it because I can't remember, but it was a radio series before that, and then became a television series, and it was very, very popular. Of course, it was renewed for another season, and George Reeves took his own life before it could be filmed, and it's a tragedy. But I really liked that show, and I liked it because, as a kid, it was Superman. I mean, how could you not like Superman as a kid? And the way that the characters were portrayed, were particularly appealing to me. Lois Lane was actually nice in that you see all the current Superman movies, and I would hit her with a stick in about 12 seconds. She's just they're always so overbearing. I don't know why they play it that way, but she was actually nice. Jimmy Olsen was wonderful on that show. He's the second most popular character. He couldn't get another job after that series because everyone kept saying, "You're Jimmy Olsen," and he was typecast, and he just embraced that. Perry White, great Caesar's ghost. He said that all the time in that show, and that was his tagline. And then, of course, Superman disguised himself as Clark Kent. Most people say Clark Kent disguised, he was really Superman, right? And he just was Clark Kent, kind of on the down low. And I liked it because it was a show that taught kids, even me, that you shouldn't hate other people because of their race or their religion or any number of things that you would otherwise could be bigoted over. It was kind of a woke show before woke was cool a little bit, and there's a lot about that in the book. And I recognized that even as a young man, that he would talk about, just because someone's a different color or believes a little different than you or dresses different than yours, doesn't have as much money as you should still care for them and look up for them. And Superman would take care of everybody. And who can just recall that opening? Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap a tall building in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's Superman. And then they said this, which I always thought was funny. He was a kid. Superman, who stands for truth, justice, and the American way. And then half the episodes, he went overseas and did things over there. So, of course, the show started, then World War II broke out, so that motto was added at that point, and probably rightly so. I was impressed with Superman, and I'm going to steal a little bit of the phraseology I used in MYM a couple weeks ago. I was impressed with Superman because, and those of you here, you'll recognize this, the nature of his power. The nature of his power. He could fly. What an incredible thing. He could fly, defy gravity. The nature of his power, he could bend steel with his bare hands. What an incredible thing. And as a kid, I know if you were like me, I was out there, I'd make a Play-Doh horseshoe, because he always would bend a horseshoe. I don't know why, because he hated horses. And so I'd make a Play-Doh, pretend like I was Superman, bending steel with my bare hands. Bullets would bounce off of him. I always loved that show. They would empty their 6-shot revolver at him, and he would just smile. Then they would throw it at him. Like that was going to be the one that took him down finally. And a lot of times he would stand in front of Lois and Jimmy and Perry. Those people got kidnapped in every episode. I don't know. You'd think one criminal would say, "Hey, that didn't work out. Let's not try that anymore." But they tried it. And sometimes they would just get ready to shoot him, and Superman would jump in front, and the bullets would just bounce off and protect those behind him. The nature of his power, he crashed through walls, always seemingly at the very last second, and came to the rescue. The nature of his power, his eyes and his ears could see and hear everything if he just focused on it. The nature of his power. That's the reason as a kid I liked him. But in light of all of that incredible, tremendous power, there's even a comic book thing where, the pretend god, Atlas, has to hold the earth, surrendered it to Superman so he could go to a wedding, and he could literally bear up the earth, under their strength. And as a kid, that was just, to me, oh man, who didn't put a towel around their neck and jump off the dining room table? I mean, it was a big deal too, because Superman, George Reeves would make public appearances and have to tell the kids, You don't tie things around your neck and jump out of your window. I mean, because kids were doing that. And at one show, it was rumored, there's not a lot of proof, that a kid came up with a gun and was aiming at, like, I'm going to shoot Superman, let it bounce off. And he talked him out of it by saying the bullet might ricochet off and hit someone else, so don't do it. So, but the nature of his power just absolutely intrigued me. However, he was also kind. He flew a sick girl around the world on a vacation, and he was gentle. He tried his best not to hurt anyone if he could possibly keep from it, and he would jump right in if anyone was going to be hurt, even if it was a criminal, and he would take the criminals to the doctor if they needed to be flown there. He was loving. He loved Jimmy and Perry and, of course, Lois. And he was truthful. He never told a lie. Even on this TV show, he never told a lie. And the writers just wanted it that way. And as obvious as it was that Superman and Clark Kent came to town at the same time, and as obvious it was they had the same hair, the same build, and the same voice, as obvious it was he had on those glasses, and as plain, they couldn't see it. They couldn't see it. There was a show, Lois and Clark, came around years later. My favorite episode of any Superman, I've seen them all, any Superman thing was this Lois and Clark, and there was an episode where people from the future came and told Lois, we laugh at you in the future because you couldn't see that with Superman. It was just and then of course she got knocked on the head. Forgot that it was Superman. That always happened, right? And so as I think of Superman and kind of my admiration of him, I can't help but think there's a Devo in there somewhere, right? And it's a pretty obvious analogy. When you think about, someone coming from away, so in this case Krypton, to the earth to bring some measure of salvation to people, you just kind of have to think about Jesus a little bit. And when I think about Jesus, I am amazed by the nature of his power. He invented gravity. Superman defied it, but he invented it. Wow, powerful. The nature of his power, he created the ore in the earth that could be refined into steel so Superman can bend it in his hands. Wow. He created that base elements. What incredible power. The nature of his power, evil bounces off of him and protects anybody that's standing behind him. You get right behind the Lord and you're safe. You're right where you're supposed to be. The nature of his power, he breaks down barriers like bursting through walls, sometimes to rescue us and sometimes to hold us back if we'll just let him. The nature of his power, his eyes and his ears see and hear everything, including your very thoughts. The nature of his power. And as obvious as it is who he is, a lot of people just can't see him. He doesn't put on glasses. Instead, the world puts on blinders. They put it on their face to not to see who he is, and I can't understand it. Romans chapter 1, verse 20 says, since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by those things that are made, even his eternal power. His power. I love the power. The Godhead, and so that they are without excuse. And the they here is us, if we're not seeing Jesus for who he really is. The they here is us. There's an old saying that goes like this, ultimate power ultimately corrupts. But when you're talking about Superman, there are some times where he went dark and did things he wasn't supposed to do. There was a movie, one of the Christopher Reeves movie, where Superman turned bad there for a little. He got hold of some bad kryptonite. Jesus never does anything wrong at all. He is always good all of the time. There's a lot of thought in the world about Christ and about Christians and how we're weak-minded because we follow someone that we've made up. Jesus is visible in his creation, and he should be visible in us. I know that as Christians we submit to God because of the nature of his power, but we love him because of the power of his nature. If you're here tonight and you're not a Christian, the superest of man came down and lived a life of perfection for you.